I found the proof of my husband's other life in a folder named Tax Docs 2022. The irony isn't lost on me. I was looking for a receipt for our marriage counselor. He was the one who suggested total financial transparency as a trust-building exercise. I guess he forgot to tell her about that rule. My name is Maya, and for 12 years, I believe my marriage to Ben was just hard. The kind of hard that every long-term relationship becomes, where you trade frantic passion for quiet comfort, where you sometimes go days just coordinating schedules and child drop-offs. Our daughter, Lily, was 6. Our life was a series of colored calendars, grocery lists on the fridge, and the soft, exhausted silence that fell over our suburban house after her bedtime. I thought the cracks were normal. The way Head sometimes look at his phone with a faint smile that vanished when he felt my eyes on him. The mandatory team-building weekends that seemed to pop up whenever we had a rough patch. The new cologne. ID asked, "Everything okay?" and had pulled me into a hug that felt a little too tight, a little too final, and say, "Just work, babe. You know how it is. I did know." Or I thought I did. The morning it started to unravel was a Tuesday. Nothing special. Rain streaked the kitchen windows. Ben was scrambling eggs, humming a tune I didn't recognize. Lily was coloring at the table, a bright sun with a lopsided smile. It was a picture of domesticity, but the air felt charged, like before a storm. Ben's phone, face down on the counter, buzzed. Not once, but 3 times in quick succession. He didn't flinch, just flipped it over casually, his thumb swiping the notifications away before I could even see the app icons. "Work group chat," he said without looking up. The egg sizzled. I poured orange juice, the sound too loud in the quiet. My eyes drifted to the family photo on the fridges at the beach last summer, smiling, sun-bleached. Ben's arm around me looked possessive, not protective. When did I start seeing the difference? Later, after dropping Lily at school, I sat in my car in the empty parking lot, the rain still pattering on the roof. The counselor had asked us to start a shared digital folder for household documents. A project of mutual investment, Shed called it. I opened the cloud drive on my laptop, the one Wed shared since college. I navigated to the new folder Ben had created, Tax Docs 2022. I clicked, and there, nestled between PDFs of W-2s and mortgage interest statements, was another folder. It was labeled with a single, cryptic emoji, a sun. My heart did a slow, sickening roll. I clicked it. It wasn't tax documents, it was a timeline of a parallel universe. There were photos. A woman with laughing eyes and dark hair at a restaurant I'd never been to. Ben in a sweater I'd never seen, his arm around her in front of a Christmas tree that wasn't ours. A receipt for a weekend at a bed and breakfast in Vermont from last October, when Ben had told me he was at a tech conference in Chicago. But it was the document file that stopped my breath. A scanned letter on what looked like personal stationery. The first line read, "My dearest Ben, I know this is complicated, but seeing you with Jake last weekend, it made everything so real. He adores you. I adore you. We can't keep doing this in snippets. She has to know. Jake. A name. A son's name." The room tilted. The rain on the car windows blurred into a gray smear. I heard a sound, a thin, animal whimper, and realized it was coming from me. She has to know. How long? The receipts went back 3 years. 3 years. Lily was 3. I thought of all the nights I cried alone, feeling neglected, blaming myself for not being more exciting, more understanding, for letting the spark die. All that time, the spark wasn't dead. He'd just taken it and started a whole other fire. Have you ever had a moment where your entire past rearranges itself? Where every memory, every argument, every quiet night suddenly gets a new, terrible narrator? I sat there for an hour, maybe more, just scrolling, clicking, absorbing. A birthday card had written to her. Pictures of a little boy Jake with Ben's exact smile. A real estate listing for a townhouse in a city 2 hours away. This wasn't an affair. This was a second family. A second life. The betrayal was so vast, so architecturally complete, it felt less like a stab wound and more like the ground dissolving beneath my feet. I didn't confront him that night. I made spaghetti. I helped Lily with her reading. I laughed at her jokes. I was an automaton, moving through the script of my old life while my mind screamed in a silent, soundproof room. When Ben came home, he kissed my cheek. His lips felt like a brand. Long day, he sighed, heading for the shower. I looked at his back, at the familiar slope of his shoulders, and saw a stranger. I thought about printing everything out and laying it on the dinner table. I thought about screaming. But a cold, calm clarity was settling over the shock. This wasn't about a fight. This was about evidence. The false hope came in a sickening wave. Maybe it was all a fantasy, a role play, some elaborate, twisted story he'd written, but the receipts had real charges. The photos had metadata with dates and locations. The little boy had his eyes. The hope was thin and pathetic, and it lasted about 10 minutes before it was crushed under the weight of a single, newly noticed detail. In the Christmas photo, Ben was wearing the wedding ring ID given him. I hired a lawyer the next day. I opened a separate bank account. I said nothing. I became a detective in my own home, gathering statements, securing copies, all while playing the part of the slightly distant, but functional wife. The tension was a living thing, a third presence in the house. He sensed it. He started buying me flowers. He suggested a weekend getaway, just the two of us. "We need to reconnect, Maya," he said, his eyes so full of manufactured concern it took everything in me not to spit in his face. I just nodded and said, "Maybe after your next trip." The trip, according to the cloud folder, was to see Jake for his 4th birthday party. The climax didn't happen in a screaming match. It happened in the sterile, quiet office of my lawyer, with a mediator present. Ben thought we were there to discuss a trial separation. He was nervous, jittery, trying to catch my eye. I kept my gaze on the polished table. My lawyer, a steely woman named Linda, slid a manila folder across to him. "Before we begin, Ben, we need you to review these documents for accuracy. They pertain to the full dissolution of the marriage and the establishment of paternity for all minor children involved." His face went blank. "All minor children?" he repeated. He opened the folder. The first page was the Christmas photo. The color drained from his face so completely I thought he might pass out. He looked up at me, his mouth working, but no sound came out. The mediator shifted uncomfortably. The air conditioner hummed. "Jake is 4 next week, isn't he?" I said, my voice unnervingly steady. It was the first time I'd spoken his other son's name aloud. The name hung in the air. A grenade whose pin had been pulled 3 years prior. Ben's eyes filled with a panic so raw it was almost satisfying. This wasn't the caught cheater panic of a stolen kiss. This was the terror of a man seeing the twin pillars of his meticulously constructed world crack simultaneously. "Maya, I can explain," he choked out. "Explain what?" I asked, tilting my head. "The bed and breakfast? The townhouse? The letter where she says she has to know?" I leaned forward, finally meeting his eyes. "She knows now, Ben, and so do I. The only thing left to explain is how fast you can sign the papers." There was no grand confession, no begging for forgiveness. The sheer scale of the evidence left no room for manipulation. He just deflated, shrinking into the expensive leather chair, a man reduced to the sum of his lies. He asked about Lily, his voice small. "You should have thought about her," I said, "when you were teaching another little boy to call you Daddy." We left the office separately. I drove to my sister's house, where Lily was waiting. I held her so tightly she squirmed. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the guest bed and looked at the empty space on my left hand where my ring had been. I didn't feel rage anymore. I didn't even feel sadness. I felt a vast, hollow quiet, like the echo in a room after everything of value has been removed. The life ID lived was a shared cloud storage plan, and had been using our account to back up a whole other existence. Now I was finally logging out. The story doesn't end with a neat new beginning. The divorce is ongoing. The custody battle is ugly. Lily asks about her dad, and I have to bite my tongue until it bleeds. Some days, the anger comes back, hot and surprising. Most days, it's just the quiet and the slow, painful work of building a new life from the scraps of the old one. I look at my daughter, and I know I have to be her solid ground, even when I feel like I am still falling. The woman in the photos, the other mother, I don't hate her. In a terrible way, we're both casualties of the same war. We both believed in a man who could only ever offer half a heart. The hardest part isn't the betrayal. It's learning to live in a world where the person who knew you best was the one who lied to you the most. Thank you for listening to my story. It's not an easy one to tell, but there's a strange comfort in sharing it. If you've ever felt that gut-deep tremor when something in your life just feels off, or if you've had to rebuild after a trust was shattered, I see you. The road is long, but you don't walk it alone. If this story resonated with you, please let me know in the comments below. Your stories and support are what make this community so strong. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real, raw stories about love, survival, and the messy truth of being human.